Rabotai.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. Welcome everyone. Today, the 7th day of Adar 1, corresponding to February the 12th. Today's special breakfast and class dedicated here at the Edmond J. Safra Synagogue by the Misri family, Le'ilui Nishmat, the beloved mother, Victoria Bat Zerife, Alea Shalom.
Amen.
The live video presentation of the Lighthouse, Le'ilui Nishmat, Deborah Feiga Bat Shemuel, and Refuah Shelema, Ora Deborah Bat Rivka. The iTorah.com recording, the Refuah Shelema, Frida Bat Zivia Svieta, and David Menachem Ben Deborah Leah. So Be'ezat Hashem, as I mentioned inside, according to some opinions, today is the Hilulah of Moshe Rabbeinu. According to other opinions, the Hilulah is a month from today. But you know what? It doesn't matter which opinion we follow. At the end of the day, Moshe Rabbeinu is very close to us, and without Moshe Rabbeinu, we will not be here today. As the Pasuk writes in Berashah, Bezot HaBeracha, Torah Sivalanu Moshe, Morasha Kehillat Yaakov. Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the Yerusha. Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the will. Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the inheritance from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the idea of the Torah. And there are a lot of things that we can say about Moshe Rabbeinu. A lot of the great midot that Moshe Rabbeinu had. But before we start talking about Moshe Rabbeinu per se, let's talk a minute about the actual name of Moshe. We know we discussed this back then in Sefer Shemot, Perashat Shemot, the different names that Moshe Rabbeinu had. And actually, Moshe Rabbeinu had 10 names, and none of them were Moshe. One of them was Tubia, the other one was Katriel, the other one was Abigdor, the other one was Heber. Different name, and Netanel, and I don't remember the list by heart, but I do know what it's written. So bottom line, 10 names Moshe Rabbeinu had, and the Torah calls Moshe Rabbeinu with another name altogether, by the name of Moshe. Why? Because this name Moshe wasn't given by Moshe Rabbeinu's parents. This name wasn't given by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This name was given actually by Batia, the daughter of Paro. When she came, Ki min hamayim meshitihu, the Pasuk says, because you were drawn from the water. The Torah shows us here, if you read between the line, a certain level of gratitude to Batia, that she risked her life in order to save Moshe Rabbeinu. Why do I say she risked her life? Because if we remember vividly, who was she? She was the daughter of Paro. In other words, her own father is saying, everyone, go ahead, get rid of the Jewish boys. What does she do? She saves them. From here we learn an interesting lesson, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu, sometimes, the Gemara tells us in the name of David HaMelech that says as follows, Afilu ereb hada munachat al tzavaro shel ha'adam, al imna asmo min ha'rachamim. Even that there is a sharp sword, literally about to penetrate the neck of the person, it doesn't get worse. Okay, the person is against the wall, and the enemy is holding a sword, and is about to penetrate. What the Gemara tells you? Don't worry. Don't worry. Alim na'asmo min ha'rachamim. Borei Olam will come and will save you. And this was part of the miracle life of Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. So then, lesson number 1, we learn how the Torah teaches us through the name of Moshe Rabbeinu the concept of being grateful, expressing gratitude, etc. But there were many great attributes about Moshe Rabbeinu's life. Obviously, besides the topic of Hanava, besides the topic of humility, that the Torah tells us in Perashah Ve'alotecha, Ve'aish Moshe Anav Me'od, Moshe Rabbeinu was super humble. Super humble. In what sense super humble? Moshe Rabbeinu had every imaginable reason why not to be humble. Why not to be humble? He gave us the Torah. He spoke to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, whatever miracle and whatever delivery system Borei Olam gave through Moshe Rabbeinu, there was enough reasons why Moshe Rabbeinu could have had perhaps a certain level of ga'ava. But the Torah tells us completely the opposite. The greater Moshe Rabbeinu became, the greater the humility and humbleness of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is not a new topic. The topic of Anava, we discussed this several times in the past classes recently. So I'm going to move on to the next topic. There is a topic called Noseh ve'ol im havero. What does it mean? Moshe Rabbeinu, let's think for a minute, how was the life of Moshe Rabbeinu in Egypt? From birth till the moment that he was appointed to become the Mashiach number one of the Jewish people. This is how Moshe Rabbeinu is known. Moshe hu goel ha'aharon, Moshe hu goel ha'rishon, Moshe hu goel ha'aharon. Moshe Rabbeinu was the first Mashiach for Am Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu will be the last Mashiach for Am Yisrael. What does it mean, the last Mashiach? Moshe Rabbeinu has an open invoice with the Jewish people. What is this invoice? I'm saying this out of love, not out of complaint. That the last time we saw Moshe Rabbeinu, spiritually or physically, was at the border of Eretz Israel. Moshe Rabbeinu passes away before we enter Israel, and Yoshua continues with the leadership of Am Israel until we enter the land of Israel. According to the Sefarim HaKedoshim, according to at least one or two opinions, when Mashiach comes, all of the Yehudim outside of Israel will be waiting at the doors of Israel. And Moshe Rabbeinu will finish once again the removal or the exodus from the Galut into Eretz Israel. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. According to what the Gemara we learned today, every day it's a suitable and a potential day for Mashiach to come. And the more Mashiach takes to come, the closer we are, obviously, to the ultimate redemption. But let's go quickly to the beginning of the life of Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, so Moshe Rabbeinu is adopted by Batia. It's raised in the house of Paro. How long does Moshe stays in Egypt? According to one midrash, till the age of 40. At the age of 40, Moshe Rabbeinu needs to escape from Egypt due to the unfortunate incident that happened. If you remember, the Pasuk tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu, got rid of an Egyptian man that was hitting violently a Jew, that he had committed, and this Egyptian committed a sin with the Jewish women. To make a long story short, there was a price tag on the head of Moshe Rabbeinu. There were Moser, there were people that were informing against Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe Rabbeinu eventually comes to Midian. And there are many different midrashim. What happened with Moshe Rabbeinu afterwards? One opinion says that Moshe Rabbeinu was actually put in jail for 10 years by Yitro. Other opinion says that before Moshe Rabbeinu came to Yitro, he went to a different land and he became a king of a non-Jewish nation. And he didn't become really the king because part of the kingdom was that he needed to marry a non-Jewish woman. So Moshe Rabbeinu left that position, but this is all based on Midrashim. Bottom line, Moshe Rabbeinu lived part of his life in Egypt. Moshe Rabbeinu was out of Egypt for 40 years, and when Moshe Rabbeinu turned 80 years old, that is when Moshe Rabbeinu comes back to Egypt to become the redemptor of Am Israel in Egypt. I apologize to interrupt this class, but unexpectedly I'm being informed that there is a gray Toyota Camry blocking some vehicles with a license plate of EZQA77. I sound like a police dispatcher. Thank you. Right there. Thank you so much. I sound like a police dispatcher. If anybody is driving a gray Toyota Camry, please be conscientious, move it, so this way whoever needs to leave promptly and accordingly.
Thank you.
Of course. Amen. I'm sorry for the unexpected interruption, but I don't do only weddings. Sometimes I gotta say things that sometimes are popular, sometimes are not popular, but definitely I'm gonna divert a second. To block someone's car is completely unacceptable. I know that we all want to pray, and we all want to have a great breakfast, and we all want to listen to a Torah class, but above anything else, there is a concept of derech eretz. There is a concept of derech eretz. How will you feel if someone blocks your car? And I know that you say, no, he never leaves, but today he needs to leave. You're not a Navi. If you're a Navi, let me know. I'll move to the side. You give the class.
Could be emergency.
Could be an emergency. Maybe he's a tzala responder. Maybe his wife is about to give birth. True. Not his wife, but I'm saying maybe he needs to take care of his wife. Who knows? But I'm speaking random cases of conscientiousness. You know, the city of Aventura recently invested in new signage on the crossway of Ives Dairy Road and Biscayne Boulevard. Do you know what that sign says?
No.
Be a mensch.
Really?
Be a mensch when you drive.
Use the word mensch?
No, I'm using the word mensch. But they use the word courtesy.
Courtesy.
What's courtesy means?
Mensch.
Be a ben adam. Okay, you driving. You drive. Okay, we all driving. Do you know how many calamities and tragedies and acts of road rage can be avoided if people will have a dosage of tolerance? So Rabotai, I respectfully ask the Kahal Kadosh, those that are here on a regular basis, or those that are listening and are also here on a regular basis, try to be conscientious. The least you can do is inform the guards or inform some of the maintenance crew or leave the car keys on the dashboard that some people do. We are hiring more valet because Ben Porat Yosef, we have a very massive crowd that comes on a regular basis. And you know, although it's an extra added cost to the budget of the synagogue, but we understand that it's a service that we must provide. So Be'ezat Hashem, Mondays and Thursdays, until further notice, we're going to try to bring more valet in order to make it easy. But in the event that you need to leave the car, make sure to leave the keys. If not, wait a few moments, and Be'ezat Hashem, you'll find a good parking spot. But please, 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 like we're saying to people, Ben Adam LaMakom is important. Ben Adam LaHavero, it's also important. Like a Jew must have a great relationship with God, a Jew must also have a great relationship with their fellow men. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, she'akol nihya v'baruch.
Amen.
Amen.
And I'd like to say the following, and it's not an apology, what I'm going to say now. And I do know that one part of my brain says, why do you have to speak about certain things that are not relevant to the topic of the class that we're talking about today? Today we're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu. But unfortunately, you know, if we don't utilize the shiurim that we have, especially, that this is better than a speech outside. Why? First of all, it's recorded. Number one, is recorded. Not only that, we are how do I say this word? We are targeting a massive audience. Today in the name of technology, today in the name of social media and different platforms that are there, you know, today you can, you know, people work out of pajamas, out of their home with technology. Correct. You work remotely. So the purpose why I interrupt sometimes the class and I say what I say, if it's bring more chairs, or if it's let them set up the food, or if it's move the car, is to create an awareness in our mind that even though that the intention that we have is to sit down in the class, even though the intentions that we have is to come to pray, but if we're doing any of the above by hurting someone, how far do you think that mitzvah will take you? Nowhere. Why not? Because we did the mitzvah by hurting someone else. It's a business. You know, the Rambam writes, if somebody steals money, it's not enough that a person says, here is the money that I stole from you, take it. Or I apologize for what I took, please forgive me. That's not enough, the Rambam says. You need to do both. You need to return the money, and sometimes you need to pay a penalty on the money, especially if you did not recognize the crime committed. Sometimes you pay 200%, sometimes you pay 400%, sometimes you pay 500%. Of course, this is a Perasha Mishpatim. But this is not today about financial crimes. That was yesterday's lunch for me. You know, unfortunate disputes that exist among people due to lack of honesty in business and misappropriation or misunderstandings or assumptions. So let's go back to Moshe Rabbeinu statement. I think is going to be a happier ending story than what is on my brain at this time. So we learn many different great midot and lessons for life from Moshe Rabbeinu. But, as I said before, there is one thing that connects us with Moshe Rabbeinu, and I'm sure everybody knows the answer. The Torah. Without Moshe, as the Pasuk says, Zichru Torah Moshe Abdi. Borei Olam attributes the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu. We know that there is a concept, and I'm going to speak very superficially on this, but there is a spiritual concept known as Sefirot. Sefirot means different ways of Hashem revealing Himself in the world. For example, Abraham is Hesed. Moshe is Netzach. Netzach in Hebrew means eternity. What does it mean? That whatever Moshe Rabbeinu did or Moshe Rabbeinu represents has an eternal effect in life. For example, the Torah. How long ago was the Torah given to Am Israel? We made a calculation the other day. 3,300 and change. 33 is 29 or 27, make the number. 5779 minus 2448 should give you 3349. That should be the number that you come out to. So we already have the Torah for over 33 years. 3,300 years, correct? And this is besides the fact that was only from the moment that we received the Torah. So I'm going to do some numbers here. So we received the Torah in the year 2448 from the creation. We are in the year 5779. So we received the Torah 33 and 49, I believe, right? 49, that's the number? Okay, 33, 49 from the giving of the Torah. That's a correct number. But I'm going to share something extra with you.
This is 3, Rabbi.
Are you sure? 17, 1
1.
second. And this is minus, I'm sorry.
Put
It's
this on
1, you're
top.
right. Yeah, but I'm doing backwards now. Because I'm talking from the end. Okay? No, you're right. 33, 41. He is correct. No, 33, 31. I am sorry.
He's wrong. He's wrong.
33, 31. Beautiful. So we already have the Torah over 3,300 years ago. But let's be honest. The Torah was existing from the creation of the world. All right. But not only that. If we are really honest with us, the Torah existed 974 generations before the creation of the world, the Zohar says. That Ka'at Dorot. So I'm going to give you a discount rate today. If a generation is 20 years, or let's be more realistic. Professor, do 974
9,000
times 25, that should be close to 20,000.
19,048.
I like to give you 20,000, 2,000. times 25. How much is that?
24.
4,000.
Okay, 25. 24.
20, show me the number.
24,
24,350. Now, we don't really know what this number means. Forget about this number. Forget about this number. Forget about this number. But one thing we know. The Zohar HaKadosh writes and it says, Istakal be'oreita ubara yat alman. Borei Olam look at the Torah. That's why the Torah is called the blueprint of the creation. And the world was created. This is how the world works. Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, they learned the Torah. They lived the Torah. They observed the Torah, including the laws of Erubin, the Gemara says. There was a takana established by the Hachamim much later in history. But what does it mean? They didn't have the Chok Israel that we have today. It was in a whole different level. It was in a whole different level of more of a spiritual awareness and understanding and heavenly messages. But we're not in that level. Once we receive the Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu, the Torah never, thank you very much, the Torah never departs from Am Israel. What does it mean? That the Torah is the lifeline of Am Israel. The Torah is the oxygen of Am Israel. Like a fish cannot survive out of the water, the Jewish people cannot survive without the Torah. And this is something, Rabotai, that is not a message only for the day of Moshe Rabbeinu's Yortzeit. But this is the day, this is the message that needs to sound daily in our life. How much Torah did I learn today? How much Torah I'm going to learn tomorrow? How much more Torah? And a person, the worst thing that a person can do in life is to say, you know what? Dayenu, I had enough. You don't have enough. Like you breathe every day, like you eat every day, Torah learning is required every day. So definitely one of the messages that the day of today brings upon us is the concept of making sure that no day of our life goes without Torah learning. So if you lit a candle yesterday in honor of Moshe Rabbeinu, Hazal Baruch. If you did not, maybe someone can ask the staff maintenance to bring a tray, or if not, light candles at home. Let's move on quickly, Rabotai. An interesting message from today's Gemara in Masechet Ketubot. The Gemara discusses the concept of giving tzedakah and giving ma'aser. We understand that there are different mitzvot related to money. One is giving charity to the needy, and giving ma'aser, which in English means a person gives away 10% of the net profit. Now, we're not going to give a lot of halachot on the ma'aser, but the Gemara says the ideal is to give no more than 20%.
Unless you're very, very old.
Only, we okay?
All good.
Thank you, I got concerned. Beautiful. The ideal is to give up to Homesh. Unless the person, Baruch Hashem, has Ben Porat Yosef, so much blessing, and giving more will not really take a toll in the person's finances. But the Gemara says, Yoter mi Homesh, don't give. 20% is fine. 10% net.
Or your worth.
After
No, net taxes, take home, earnings, of course, earnings. But if you want to give from your assets, talk to me, I can help you. We're opening up a kollel soon, so I need boost now. No 101. A 101,000, I give you, the name for a year. But anyways, I cannot make this offer publicly because we are talking to a dear friend of ours that is willing to give us a wonderful boost for the kollel. But we have a couple of other things available. We can share with you this a bit later. In a more serious note, and by the way, is ma'aser deductible. You give tzedakah to yeshiva, to a kollel, you help the needy, you help the orphans, the widows, has v'shalom, achnasat kallah, etc. is definitely deducted from the maaser, and in some cases tax deductible as well. But I like to talk about an interesting pasuk that is found in today's parasha. You may have learned this Gemara before, but I think that is important because at the end of the day, supporting Torah and supporting the needy and learning Torah, this is part of who we are as a nation. The Gemara brings an interesting pasuk, and the pasuk says in Tehillim, Ashrei Shomrei Mishpat, Oseh Tzedakah Bechol Ed. Fortunate is the person that keeps the law properly, meaning to say acts in a righteous way and fulfills charity or does charity every instant of the day. Can you imagine doing charity every instant of the day? And that's a question of the Gemara. Is it possible that a person gives charity every second of the day? What does it mean in your mind, giving charity? Putting your hand in your pocket and putting money in the kuppah, or sliding the credit card in the machine. So the Gemara says, how do you do charity constantly? The Gemara brings different opinions, but this is one beautiful opinion that I personally love in the name of Rabbi Shemuel Bar Nehmani, and it says, Zeh hamegaddel yetom liyetoma betoch beto umasiyam. This refers a person that adopts or raises an orphan, boy or girl, takes them under their wing to their home, and they take care of them from the moment that they arrive to the home all the way till the instant that they walk under the chuppah. So here the Mefarshim say that whatever you do, you went to a pizza store and ice cream to take a yatom to have pizza and ice cream, and you also had pizza and ice cream. The Gemara says tzedakah. Why? This is not your child. If it's your child, usually parents have affection, would have a good time. But you know what does it mean to adopt a child? To adopt an orphan? In some cases, yes. Excellent question. Now, shene'emar, hom ba'osher bebeto, sitkato, omedet la'al. It says very simple, David HaMelech in the book of Tehillim, that the charity that a person does, Borei Olam guarantees that money will never be lacking in their life. As the Rambam writes in the laws of Tzedakah, Le'olam, forever, en adam ma'aneh et atzmo min has-tzedakah, that for giving charity nobody will come poor. Now, other opinion says no, orphans, okay, but there is other opinions. Which is the other opinions? Ze alomet Torah umelamedah. When you learn Torah with someone, when you teach Torah to someone, it's like giving tzedakah to someone. Why? What does tzedakah supposed to be? To bring life to the person. So what do we do when we teach Torah? We are giving life to ourselves, to each and every one of us. Other opinion says, you know what? Other opinion says, the person that donates books of Torah study. In the olden days, they didn't have books. They had parchments. Meaning to say that people had very limited access to Sefarim. Books did not exist. Today that everybody has a Siddur, today that everybody has options of the Hokle Israel, and options of Siddurim, and options of Tehillim, and options of Gemarot, is a luxury item, which is common. But it says here that when you benefit others with Sefarim and enables the person to learn Torah, Hazal Baruch. And guess what? Yesterday I had two miracles. Two miracles, without giving you details. Two separate people said, Rabbi, I'm donating the library to the new Kollel. So it's already taken. And somebody says, Rabbi, I want to give you X amount for certain Sefarim that I want to have in the Kollel. Said, Hazal Baruch. You know what is the zechut that a person donates Sefarim? What is the zechut? every time somebody uses it, or some people get inspired by seeing nice sefarim, new sefarim. Look how beautiful you have different hooks in English, in Hebrew, with commentaries, without commentaries, etc. You support an avrech of the Kolel, for example. You support someone, Issachar and Zevulun. What's the whole idea, Issachar and Zevulun? Is a business relationship, which has nothing to do with business. You work and somebody else learns on your behalf. And you split the learning and you support this Talmid Hacham. That doesn't mean, for the record, and it's important for me to clarify, and by the way, we have 6 opportunities in the sponsorship of the Kolel rabbinical students. 4 from here and 2 that we are bringing, Be'ezat Hashem, soon from out of town. We need to interview them, etc. So it's a project, but we are debating when to start. After Pesach or after the summer. Here, in the 2nd floor. We have a Rosh Kolel moving into town soon, and we're going to interview him soon. So the process is already pregnant. It's halfway in the pregnancy. We're not into labor yet, okay? But we are on the 7th month, so to speak. So you're going to have an opportunity where you can sponsor a month of learning in the Kolel. Not bad. A month of learning, Ga'ilun Ishmal, the Refuah Shelema. You can sponsor one of the rabbinical students. And Baruch Hashem, I take 0. From this is to benefit the Kahal. Baruch Hashem, the Kahal takes care of me in different way, so I'm not worried. But this is only to bring more Beracha and more Kedusha, and especially in a day like today, a day of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu will be here when we're going to inaugurate the Kolel soon. Your rabbi promised, Beli Neder, to be here. Yes, to be here, Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay, I'm going to send a charter flight. You're going to make sure to bring him, because the rabbi said he wants to be Be'ezrat Hashem, the grand opening night, because he felt very emotional, and we and I go back 30 years, if not more. So, we are like brothers, so to speak. So when he heard the great news, he froze. So Be'ezrat Hashem, he will be coming, him and others, but definitely
Which rabbi?
Rabbi Eli.
Oh, Eli. So,
Yes, Be'ezrat Hashem, yes. Okay, now I put him on the spot, but he knows of this project as well. Doesn't matter.
We could tell him, right?
Of course. Ask him, when are you coming? He's going to tell you, when the rabbi calls me, I come.
I'll make sure.
When I call, he picks up. And when he calls me, I pick up too. Okay, so it's reciprocal. So one more, the Gemara says, Umash'ilam la'achirim, enable others to learn Torah as well. And it says that the tzedakah and the sefarim and the support of the needy and the support of the yatomim and the support of melamedim, the teachers of Torah, all this brings a tremendous amount of beracha. But the Gemara concludes with one more pasuk. The pasuk says, Ur'e banim levanecha, shalom al Israel. This is a pasuk from our daily prayers. Let's translate this pasuk quickly. Sometimes it's good to know what we are saying. So let's read the literal translation of this pasuk that comes from the book of Tehillim. And it says, Ur'e banim levanecha, may your seed, children, to your children, meaning to say, may you have the merit of having grandchildren, shalom al Israel, and will be peace on the Jewish nation, which this actually means in your family. Ask the Gemara, what has to do having grandchildren with peace? Peace is something for everybody, but why you, as a grandfather, will see peace? Comes the Gemara and it says, Kevan shevanim levanecha, shalom al Israel. There is an interesting mitzvah from the Torah. Unhappy mitzvah, but unfortunately is a mitzvah that tragically at times needs to be observed. What is this mitzvah? The mitzvah of Ibum and Halisa. Ibum and Halisa, I'll describe the scenario briefly. Husband and wife were happily married. Unfortunately, the husband dies without children in the world. Haz v'shalom. Who's supposed to marry the widow? The brother of the husband. That mitzvah is called Ibum. But what happens if for some reason this marriage doesn't get consummated, meaning to say she doesn't want him or he doesn't want her. There is a ceremony called halitza. Very, very unfortunate type of ceremony. You do it in a public forum. All the elders of the city come. They use a special shoe. They spit into the shoe and they say a whole pasuk, me'enye bami libnot baim be'Israel. Bottom line, the whole Megillah, from death to the refusal of Mary, the brother-in-law, or the opposite, it's a very bitter taste in the mouth of everyone involved. Maybe the brother-in-law says to marry her, Bahalom. I told my brother not to marry her, and you expected me to marry her. I refuse to marry her. These kinds of statements that I just said are not statements of peace. They are statements of embarrassment. They are statements of unpleasantness. So the Torah says the moment that this lady has children from the husband, the mitzvah of ibuma halitza, it's completely gone. He can leave the world, God forbid. But once there was a child from this marriage, automatically we have less mahloket in the families. Very interesting Gemara. And now, Shalom al Israel, de la ate leansuye. There is one more, the Gemara says, money matters. Let's say that a person was not married, or a person was married and no children. What happens now? Now you're going to have a family mahloket. What mahloket? Who is going to take the house? Who takes the house of the dead brother? Who takes the car? There is no wife. Who takes it? So the family members are going to start arguing. No, he's my older brother, it belongs to me. No, I'm the younger sister, it belongs to me. So therefore the Gemara says, when there are children involved, all the brothers and sisters, they completely drop out of the will. The priority of a Yerusha is from parents to children. Now, you can stipulate certain things on the Yerusha, obviously, like in any will. That's why a will needs to be done between the halachic parameters and perimeters, including the wife, including the children, and based on the scenarios. But the Gemara says that when there is a full family circle, husband, wife, children, and grandchildren, that minimizes a lot of the drama that exists sometimes throughout life. The Zohar of today, it's the topic that we discussed at length last week from the Musar, that was all about the topic of anger management. The topic of anger. Since I'm looking around the room and I see that you have heard this topic very recently, we don't need to reinforce again, although it's never enough, but the Zohar, and again, this is the source of the Sha'arei Kedusha of last week, how there is a change in the spiritual essence of the person when the person is angry and when the person is calm. And therefore the Zohar concludes, it says, as much as you can, don't get upset. Make sure to control your hot temper. Avoid involvement of Kaas, because Kaas, it has a negative effect on the life of the person, physically and spiritually as well. So with that being said, we're going to go quickly to the Musar of the day. Not easy, this Musar, I'm warning you in advance, is very challenging to do, but we need to understand what is expected from us. And perhaps I am going to give you an introduction going back to Moshe Rabbeinu a minute or two. You may have heard this saying before, but I think that it's an apropos introduction, being according to some opinions, I repeat, according to some opinions, today is the Hilulah of Moshe Rabbeinu, but it doesn't matter, talking about Moshe Rabbeinu is good any day of the year. We love Moshe Rabbeinu, obviously. Without him, how many times he defended us? How many times he negotiated a deal for us? a plea bargain to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we owe our existence as a nation to Moshe Rabbeinu, obviously. The Gemara in Kiddushin, chapter number 4, talks about different topics about people, background, mazal, midot, attitudes, influences of the parents, influences of the city that they were born at, influences from the hour of the day and the day of the week. All these things that I told you have an influence on the life of the person. So I'm telling you this introduction because if you look in the Mishnayot of chapter 4 of Kiddushin, the Tiferet Israel, I believe, brings an interesting Midrash Peli'ah that discusses an interesting incident that happened with Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. The incident is about the relationship between the face of the person and the attitude of the person. There is a concept in Kabbalah that talks about how you can look at someone's face, ears, mouth, hair, nose, fingernails, fingers, and see what kind of personality they have. I'm not going to tell you what is written. So this way you're not going to start looking at people's faces and ears and say, aha, you're a short fuse guy according to the Zohar. God forbid. The Torah believes in the change of the person. And who is the proof of this? Moshe Rabbeinu. There was a non-Jewish king, the Midrash tells us, that heard about the greatness and the accomplishments of Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. And it says, I want to see how Moshe Rabbeinu looks. And he sent someone to draw the face of Moshe. This fellow came back to the king. This is the drawing of Moshe. The king says, you're wrong. This is not the face of Moshe. Why you say that? Because his actions don't match his face. Sends another guy. Same scenario. Brings the design of Moshe Rabbeinu, lithograph. And he says, impossible. This is not Moshe. Finally, the king says, I'm going to go and look for Moshe Rabbeinu myself. He goes, he looks at Moshe Rabbeinu, he looks at the two drawings that his two guys did for him, and he sees that the drawings were like real pictures. So he approached Moshe Rabbeinu, this non-Jewish king, and he says, Moshe, I don't understand. Your face tells me that you are very arrogant, you're a hot-tempered person, but I hear that you are completely the opposite. You are humble, you are easygoing, you are forgiving, you are tolerant, you are kind to people. How could it be? It says very simple, Moshe Rabbeinu says. I worked on myself. I worked on myself. Meaning to say that we understand that even though that we have the Gemara that tells you, oh, you were born on a Sunday, you were born on a Monday, you're a different type of guy. If you live on Sunday, I was born on a Sunday. Sunday afternoon, 5 o'clock. Yes, peaceful time. But some people are born on a Monday. Yeah, adrenaline. Or people were born on Friday afternoon. Of course, the Gemara tells you, depends on the day, what kind of mazal and personality you have. But it doesn't mind all that. Moshe Rabbeinu says, all that is irrelevant. If the person works on themselves, the person can change their own personality and becoming the best that they can. Why do I give you this introduction? Because today's Musar is about the power of staying quiet. To talk and to jump, it doesn't take much effort. How many times I raised my hand in the class? How many times I said we are recording the class? Okay, and this is a happy thing. Torah learning, we commenting, etc. But how many times, God forbid, at home or in a business dispute, people start raising the voice? and it becomes a shouting match. And instead of becoming a normal conversation, it becomes something unpleasant. And therefore the Gemara writes in Masechet Hulin, in העולם מתקיים אלא במי שבולם פיו בשעת מריבה. It says, you want to know what keeps the world alive? The merit of those that in the moment of argument, they stay quiet. Unbelievable Gemara in Hulin. As the Pasuk writes in Yov, Tole eres al belima. The world is suspended. In other words, the existence of the world, it stands daily on the merit that those who stay quiet in the moment of argument. Now, you may say, Rabbi, if that's the case, we are doing very well, because the world is alive and well every day. Don't kid yourself. Whenever you have catastrophic situations in the world, it means that we are not okay. And especially if the catastrophes happen in Eretz Israel, like it happened 2 days ago, a very unfortunate, a tragic accident with a bus, I think, that was going from Modi'in Eilit to Har Nof in Yerushalayim. There were casualties, many wounded, lo alenu velo alechem. So we need to remember also this. Comes Rabbi Abu and it says, in העולם מתקיים אלא במי שמסיע עצמו כמי שאינו. It says, the world stands on the merit of the invisible person. The invisible person. Have you heard of the invisible person?
Invisible man.
The invisible man, okay? Amavdil. So it says, make yourself invisible. Somebody raise the voice, ignore it. Somebody's talking in a way that is unpleasant, ignore it. Move on. Don't let it get to you. And he brings a Gemara from Masechet Shabbat, Tanur Banan, Hana'elavim, Be'enan Olvim, exactly. The people that are mistreated verbally or insulted, and they don't reciprocate. Shom'im Herpatam Be'enam Meshivim. They don't answer back. Obviously, this is forbidden. This is not mutar in one case, forbidden in another. All around is forbidden to insult another human being, to insult another Yehudi, to insult a spouse. Is all serious averot from the Torah. But let's say, God forbid, that a wife screams at the husband, or Haz v'Shalom, the husband screams to the wife, which both of them are wrong. Let's clarify. No one has the permission, nobody has an allowance. Okay, you can do it 3 times a day, okay? 3 times a day you can scream. Haz v'Shalom. You should never scream. Unless you're screaming to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, unless you're screaming from your heart in the tefillah, but raising the voice, especially talking to people and insulting or mistreating or hurting them, there is no permission whatsoever. And it says as follows, Alehem HaKatuv Omer, the Pasuk writes in the book of Shofetim, Be'ohavav keset hashemesh bigborato. It says as follows, you see the mighty sun that comes every day, and is so powerful, the sun, that not only dissipates darkness, brings heat into the world. Okay? We're walking around in Florida with a short sleeve. I'm sorry to the New York crowd in Brooklyn or in Deal or in Montreal or whatever they may be up north, that they are with coats and sweaters, etc. But here you walk around, very comfortable. Okay? So it says that the power of the sun is comparable to the power of the people that are quiet. And this is like a shining star, so to speak. Amar Eliyahu Navi, לעולם יבעלו לבני אדם בלבני בתיך יותר מכולם. Eliyahu Navi says, if there is an area in your life that you should not answer back, and be careful and thoughtful on the tone of the voice and on the content of the words, libnei betecha, especially to your wife and children. And therefore the Gemara writes and it says, you want to have Torah be part of your life? B'mi she'eno kafdan. Make sure that you are a person that has a sterling character, a person that is not exacting or particular, a person that is easygoing. I ask you a question now. Who wants to meet Eliyahu Navi?
Everybody.
Who wants to meet Eliyahu Navi?
Who doesn't?
Everybody doesn't. So we're going to give you the formula now of how Eliyahu Navi can come to you. So here it says, Amar Eliyahu Navi, Afani eno nigla ella lemi she'eno kafdan. Eliyahu Navi says, if you're an easygoing person, I'll come to you. Now don't ask me how he looks. Don't ask me when is he going to come to you. Another thing that it means here, that for one day that a person says, okay, I want to meet Eliyahu Navi and I'm going to become close to him. It doesn't happen overnight, I believe. It doesn't happen, there was a fellow who lived during the time of the Baal Shem Tov. And we need to remember one thing. Centuries ago, people, besides living a different lifestyle than the one that we live today, even spiritually speaking, people used to fast very often. And people used to fast according to the transgressions committed. And people used to go to the mikveh, breaking the ice, frozen lake. And people used to remove the upper part of the garments and roll in the snow. People used to do a lot of something called sigufim. And there was a technique that says that a person that fasts all week long will merit eventually to see Eliyahu Navi. I think it's 40 days, not 7 days, but 40. Don't try this at home, please. No, I'm telling you in advance. Don't try this at home. Already the Musar gave us an easy formula. The Musar is telling you, you don't need to fast. You don't have to go to the frozen mikveh. You don't have to roll yourself on the ground with snow. You don't have to walk barefooted on the ice-cold floor. No, be normal. Just act normal. Don't be kafdan, don't be exacting, don't be hypersensitive. Be an easygoing person. It's not easy. It's not easy to be easygoing. It sounds easy, but it's not easy. So some of us may be easier than others. Some people, right, it depends on the nature of the person. But you know what? We are not married to nature. Our mission in the world, the books of Musar tells us that we need to break the nature. It's not easy. The Pelei Yoel says that to change a bad habit, it requires 40 days of training. 40 days of training. Why 40 days? Because that's how long the fetus of a person took to be built. 40 days. 40. Same thing. The Torah was given to us when? 40 days. Quarantine, 40 days. So there is a connection with the number 40. But that's what it says. So this Hasid fasted week after week, week after week, week after week. He will only eat on Shabbat and Melave Malka. The last food that he ate was on Mosai Shabbat. The next time he ate food was Friday night. And like this he did several weeks. He exceeded 40 days, 80 days, 100 days. And he came to his rabbi, which I'm not sure if it was the Baal Shem Tov or was another rabbi by the name of Rabbi Mechel Mizlachov. He wasn't from Halab. He was from Zlachov, next to the Ukraine, where some of you will be going soon, Be'ezat Hashem, to the community trip, Be'ezat Hashem. Now, what happened with this Hasid? He says, Rabbi, I'm fasting for over 10 weeks, and Eliyahu Navi is not coming. I want my money back. So the rabbi asked him, tell me, what do you do? He says, all week long, I go in Sigufim, I go to the mikveh, I fast, I don't talk, I do it bodidut, I roll myself in the snow, all things that whoever is listening to me now and doesn't know about this topic may say, what is this rabbi talking about? But we need to understand, going back centuries, there was a checklist, a menu of sins, menu of fasting days. I have it upstairs. Not a full list, because it's a scary list to look at. Making fun of someone, I think, is 33 fast days. Wow. Anger, 150 days. Other Averot of Shabbat, 300 and something. I have this list upstairs. If I'll find it, I'll bring it to you one day. But obviously today we don't do this, but only just creating an awareness how people live centuries back. Centuries ago, people have a different way of living. So this rabbi asked the student, so tell me, oh, very nice, everything that you do. But how do you eat when Shabbat comes? The person says, how do I eat, Rabbi? How do you expect me to eat? I did not eat all week long. I eat the whole table. The rabbi says, that's your problem. You blew it. If after a week of fasting L'Shem Shamayim, you eat like Esav and not like Yaakov, Eliyahu Navi will never come to see you. So this Hasid understood that the action wasn't the fasting. The action was how he reacts after the fasting. Same thing in here. It says, Ani eni nigla ela lemi she'eno kafdan. I will not reveal myself unless the person is an easygoing person. And that's why the Musar of today says, great is the merit of the person who recognize their limitations, recognize that Hashem is the one holding the hands, makes room for Hashem to serve Hashem through prayer, through Torah learning, but above anything else, how is the conduct of the person? How does the person behave? How does a person behave? And we're not talking about how does a person behave when you're praying, or how does a person behave in the shul in front of the rabbi. Usually in the shul, in front of the rabbi, in a public setting, people usually have, let's call it, a good way of behavior. But the challenge happens afterwards. While you drive, how do we drive? Or when you park, how do you park? Do you block someone? Did you hit somebody's bumper and you left? Or you put a note on the window? Like sometimes, Chas v'Shalom, happens. Or how you treat your wife, your children, your employees, etc. If a person is a well-rounded individual, Torah learning, derech eretz, midot tovot, praying, kindness, etc. ודאי הוא אהוב למעלה ונחמד למטה והשם עמו. For sure that Borei Olam likes this person, for sure that the people like this good person, and for sure that Hashem will always be with this person. But let's be honest, we know people, unfortunately, not too many, but some, that because of their attitude, people don't like them. Sure. There are people who always complain. For example, always complain. And there's people that always has something to say, but beautiful breakfast, but beautiful kiddush, but beautiful wedding, but every time we talk like that, you think that you're doing a favor to someone? You're not writing a review. Somebody's asking you, please come to my restaurant. I want to hear your true opinion. And the person is calling you for a good advice because I want to do something right. You know, it's like sometimes you go to a restaurant and then you say, you know what, I'm not going to tip the waiter. Who gave you the permission not to tip the waiter? The waiter lives on the tips. You didn't like the food? Blame the chef. Speak to the store manager. Speak to the owner. Says, you know what? The food didn't have a good taste. Didn't taste fresh. You reheated the salmon 3 days in a row. The rib steak is like a sole of shoe, so to speak. But to penalize the waiter, and especially if you wear a kippah and you don't tip. I remember one day, I was in a kosher restaurant many years back, and a lady, a waiter, was talking about a customer who left without leaving a tip. And I overheard the conversation because, as you know, I don't speak only English. I speak a few other languages. And she was talking to another waiter in Portuguese. And she assumed that a religious guy like me looking doesn't speak Portuguese. That rabbi, by the way, is from Brazil, so he understands Portuguese. We go back 30, 40 years at least with him. So I told to her not to worry. He did not have cash, but he asked me to add your tip to my bill.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
What a tzaddik you are.
I'm not a tzaddik. My wife told me to do that. You understand? My wife says, Yosef, do what's right. That's what she told me. And I got the message. The Yetzer Hara tells you, you were eating on a different table. Why you should tip someone who ate, let's call it a vegetarian pizza with the falafel and a green salad, yani a $70 bill, and I'm only having a $15 bill.
Kiddush Hashem.
Hazaku Baruch. It's like you go sometimes to a building, or you go to a valet, to a hospital, or to a mall, etc. Believe me, it's not worth it to be insulted by Goim for $2. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Please and thank you never killed anyone. That is what makes the difference in the person. I'm not such a tzaddik. By the way, I am not. I'm telling you this in advance because I don't want to. I'm Hanav also. Okay? You understand? So I remember this story vividly. She told me, Yosef, do what's right. So I said to her, I'm sorry. Você fala português? You speak Portuguese? Says, you saw the guy who left? He apologized that he had no cash on him. And he wanted to leave you a nice tip. So I'll take care of it when I finish eating. Her face changed.
Sure. You got good service, Rabbi.
I usually get good service, you know why? Because I learned from my parents.
Tip first.
No, I don't tip first usually. But I always try to say, thank you, and please, what do you suggest today? You know, again, as a rabbi, but as a Jew, forget about as a rabbi. As a Yehudim, we need to show the world that we are different. I witnessed a situation in a supermarket a while back. And I was a nearby bystander. I don't think the person realized that I was 3 people behind them. And someone had 20 items or 30 items, and there was a lady that had 2 items, 1 item. And the guy, very kind, said to the lady, I'm going to be here for 10 minutes. You have 1 or 2 items. Fadlalu, please. That's a normal thing that we all do.
Yeah.
And there was a guy behind him, and he said, it's not fair, it's not my right. You know the nonsense that sometimes people say. And the guy turned, you know what? Go ahead of me.
Yeah, that's it.
You're so desperate, you're in a rush, go ahead of me. You slap him on the face with a candy, with a kiss. You understand? But this is what we need to activate whatever we get to hear Be'ezat Hashem on a regular basis. My dear friends, have a great day, everybody. Thank you. Baruch Adonai